Welcome back to r/LegalAdvice, where people ask questions, get advice, and we get satisfaction. If you are new around here, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel to join our awesome community, and without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And the first one is titled, Nightmare ex-flatmate owes me £200 and forgot to cancel her standing order for rent money to my account. Would I be committing a crime by keeping what she owes me? My ex-flatmate who, for context, broke into our house after moving out with keys she had illegally kept to bring around her friend, who proceeded to threaten us with a knife before being escorted out by police, refused to pay her share of the electric and water bill, resulting in a cumulative debt of around £200. The water bill is in her name and I have her own admission that she owes me electric money in writing. She forgot to cancel her standing order to my account for rent money, so she has accidentally put £525 into my account. Obviously, given all the bad blood and the fact that I am owed a significant sum of money, I'm a student, I want to keep what she owes me and send the rest back to her. Would this be illegal under English law? Am I at all likely to get sued if I do this? And a user in the comments said, not a lawyer, but could you contact the ex-flatmate and test the waters, so to speak? Something along the lines of, hi ex, I've just noticed you have neglected to cancel your standing order, so I'm ringing to remind you to do that. Also, because you owe me some money, I'm happy to put the current amount you transferred to clear the debt and return the rest to you. Shall I go ahead with that, and if so, how would you like me to give you back the remainder? And then OP answered, so I have blocked her on all platforms due to the aforementioned break-in/knife accident and the fact that she outright refused to pay the money she owed out of spite, as well as due to numerous historical issues such as her using my toy and stealing our other flatmate's electric scooter as she was moving out. She is honestly just an awful person, so I will not be contacting her, but she sent a message to a mutual friend acknowledging the mistake and asking for the money back. If I keep the money, I will either send her a message explaining why myself or ask the mutual friend to do so on my behalf. Update: Nightmare ex-flatmate owes me £200 and forgot to cancel her standing order to my account. Thank you so much for all the excellent advice under my post yesterday. After reviewing everyone's comments, I decided to keep the money. After reviewing the bills, I discovered it was actually £320 she owed and sent her a lengthy message explaining that I would be offsetting her household utilities debt against the money she sent and returning the rest to her, accompanied by a breakdown of her debts, evidence of her liability in the bills, and a reminder to stay on top of her personal banking, as some of you suggested. To my surprise, she put up zero fuss. She simply rolled over and gave me her preferred method of payment, and that was that. Sorry this update was not more dramatic, but I thought I would let you know that karmic justice prevailed and I can finally put the whole situation behind me. Really appreciate all your support. And the next one is titled, CA, California, someone started stealing my water and now my bill is huge and I don't know what to do. Okay, so I moved into this trailer park 3 months ago. I am not well off financially obviously, and so this bill is really messing me up. I live with one other person, we don't have a dishwasher or a washing machine, and we hardly do dishes in the sink. Just like my girlfriend, by the way. We both don't even shower every day either, so I honestly cannot figure out how this happened. Anyways, our water bill this month was $150 and it says I used 32 units of water. Last month it was $60 and first month it was 30. We checked for leaks and there is none, but I have heard people walking around outside where my hose spigot is. I also often see lights on next door when I know the trailer is abandoned, and the first month a lady from the park was cleaning that specific trailer and asked to use my water. I'm going to pay the bill, but because of the dramatic increase I pretty much cannot afford food. Sorry for the wall of text, I just need to know I have some options of anything. I already put locks on the outside spigots, but is there any way to, I don't even know, like get someone to look into it? I own the trailer but rent the space, and as far as I know, maintenance of pipes is done by the park. And a user in the comments said, locking your spigots was a good move. You may also want to double check everything upstream of your water meter for leaks. You may have a leaky pipe somewhere hidden that needs to be fixed. Also, check your toilets. A slow leak in a toilet is not always obvious, but it can cost you money. You can call the water company and ask them to send someone to check your meter. It is always possible that it is malfunctioning. And another person in the comments said, if you go out and look at your meter, there should be a little wheel that spins when there's water flowing, or a hand that measures gallons as they go by. You want to make sure that wheel is not spinning when you are not using water. You could have a pipe broken in the ground that is leaking and never show any evidence of the leak where you can see it. It would be hard for someone to steal that much water unless they had a hose hooked up to your water supply. Okay guys, and before we read the update, and by the way, I haven't looked at the update yet, I am now taking bets on why the neighbors or how the neighbors could steal that much money. And my guess is they used it for some kind of illegal business, maybe drugs or something, I'm not sure. Let me know about your predictions in the comments, and please also don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments to support the channel. Thank you so much in advance, and now let's check out the update. And the next one is an update to the stealing water story. So I know the original post did not get a lot of attention, but the situation completely changed after my post, and I know you guys love a good juicy neighbor story. I had my roommate move both our cars the other night and just waited at my window for a bit around the time I suspected the theft was happening, and sure enough, around midnight, my neighbor across the street walks up with two 10-gallon buckets. So I took a couple pictures out of my window. At this point he sees the spigots were locked and he went back in the house. He comes out less than a minute later with a toolbox and tries to get the lock off for a bit. I took a few more pictures, but he failed. So then he just walks over to my other neighbor's house and uses their spigot. And not only that, he came back and filled the buckets up, went inside, and then came back out and filled them up again 2 more times. So I am not exactly sure what transpired, but last night I heard a ton of yelling and a gunshot, which is not an uncommon occurrence in this neighborhood, so the cops got here pretty fast. Turns out the neighbors were growing a ton of pot in their trailer, triple wide mobile home, and did not want to fund the water bill, I guess. They were using it for all their household stuff too, and there was like 3 of them living in there. Cops took everyone away, don't have to worry about them anymore. Anyways, rental company lady, she actually lives up the street from me and came when she saw the cops, said not to worry about paying rent. Water and gas is read off a meter and then added to my rent until they get it sorted out, and I won't have to pay the full amount, so I will be okay and able to afford stuff this month. Yay! I guess I'm one of 5 other people on my street complaining of huge water bills, and so I showed her the pictures, and I guess this is not even close to the first problem they've had with these neighbors, surprise surprise. I did end up making all my bathroom fixtures super water efficient in the meantime, thanks to suggestions on the last post though, so thank you. And the next one is titled, I'm a foreign student at an American university. I've been served a restraining order. I've never interacted with the person I'm supposed to stay away from. So I am freaking out right now. I am an Indian national studying here in the US in California. I was just served a restraining order by a campus police official. I'm supposed to not contact/call or interact in any way with a specific woman. When I was handed this order, I did not recognize the name of the person who had asked for it. The campus police officer did not believe me and essentially threw me out of the office with a few warnings. I got back home and googled her name. The face is semi-familiar, so I asked some of my friends and they say that she comes to one of the classes I take, approximately 70+ students. They think she may just be auditing that class. I have never spoken to her or interacted with her in any way whatsoever. I am 100% sure of that. My questions are as follows. Is there any chance that this may be a clerical mistake? I have a fairly unique name and one of 4 Indian students in that class. Is there a chance that there's some confusion? Is asking someone else to get in contact with her to find out what is going on a violation of this order? The campus police officer said that if I violate it, I will be expelled, lose my scholarship and face possible jail time. Is this possible? What exactly does this no contact thing mean? Do I have to keep some sort of physical distance from her at all times? Like I cannot be in her eyesight or something? We are currently on break, but I am around campus to use the library and study. What if she is also there? Can we be in the same building? How do I go about challenging this? The campus legal aid office seems to be half-staffed, but I have an appointment for tomorrow. Should I prepare myself in some way for that meeting? I cannot really afford a lawyer. Should I contact my embassy? I cannot afford to lose my scholarship and get expelled, and I most certainly cannot go to jail. What should I be doing? How long should an appeal to get this done with take? And a user in the comments said, I hope campus legal aid can help you. I would be concerned because you are in the same class as this person. You should find out if the order means you cannot go to that class. Since it is a temporary order, I assume, but I could be wrong, that there will eventually be a hearing. Try to find out. Whatever you do, don't contact the person or have others contact her on your behalf. I can see a couple possibilities. Number 1, she meant to get the order naming another student who sort of looks like you and she got the name wrong. Number 2, you once looked at her in a way that made her uncomfortable and she somehow embellished that into a situation that warrants a restraining order. Unlikely, but possible. And another user said, if you look on page 4 of the packet you were given, it tells you how to respond to this order and potentially contest it. According to the form, you need to fill out form SV120 and file it with the court clerk. You will get a hearing date set at which you can contest the TRO. Make sure you show up to that court date. At the hearing, you should calmly, clearly explain to the judge that you do not know this person and you do not understand why this TRO was issued against you. Hopefully, the judge will find you believable and will dismiss the TRO. If the petitioner, the person who took out the TRO against you, no-shows to that hearing, then the judge will just dismiss the TRO as a matter of course. For background, temporary restraining orders, TROs, are usually granted in the following way. The individual comes into court, fills out a form, maybe talks to the judge for 2 minutes, and then walks away with the TRO. The standard for granting TROs is pretty low. If the respondent, that is you, contests the TRO and shows up to the hearing, the judge tends to be a lot tougher about keeping the TRO in place. And wow, time and time again I have to say guys, I am very impressed with the advice given out at r/LegalAdvice. Sometimes you really get quality responses. Update to the foreign student story. I just thought you guys would appreciate an update to this post. This is a California university. It's a little long and a little complicated, so I will lead with a few facts. I'm 27, I moved here in September for my master's. I'm also taking an undergrad course at the suggestion of my advisor to shore up my fundamentals before I get deeper into my grad program. I lived in a 3 BHK with 2 other guys, let's call them Nick and Aiden. I found this accommodation on the university Facebook. They are both seniors in an undergrad course. The young lady, let's call her Angie, who filled the TRO, is Nick's ex-girlfriend. They broke up before I came to this country, so I had no awareness of this. It seems like Nick had been having a hard time getting over this relationship, and November onwards he had gone off the deep end. He had been stalking Angie and had been harassing some of her friends. He ended up crossing the line in December, talked his way into her house when she wasn't there and stole some of her stuff, claiming they were gifts from him. Aiden also contributed to this harassment by driving Nick around. Aiden is the only one in the house with a car, as well as trying to get Angie to talk to Nick a few too many times. My knowledge of this whole drama was absolutely nil. My relations with the 2 guys is restricted to house stuff. There's not much in common between 2 21-year-old American seniors and a 27-year-old Indian grad student. We were acquaintances who were happy to stay that way. Unfortunately for me, Angie was not aware of this dynamic. The day after Nick stole her stuff, Angie went to the police following their advice as she filed a TRO against Nick, Aiden and another one of their friends and me. I was included in that sordid list for a few reasons. Number 1, I was their housemate and it was reasonable to suspect that I knew about this whole drama. Number 2, a couple of people claimed to have seen me in their company often. Other than the grocery store and a bar on my first weekend here, I've never hung out with these guys in any way. But the Chinese whispers that started during the whole drama blew up my role to false proportions. Among his various harassing messages, Nick would always know where Angie was and who she was with. How much of that he knew through his own stalking and how much he knew through other people is unknown. I was suspected of being one of those other people. Angie seems to have suspected that I was taking that class we shared to keep an eye on her for Nick. Me, a grad student being in an undergrad class, was the basis of that suspicion. All of these reasons were enough for Angie to include me in that list. The judge and university official did not give a damn about me and granted the TRO. As I mentioned in my first post, I went to the legal aid office. They couldn't help me since this was a student versus student issue, but they put me in touch with an outside lawyer. This lady had a lot of experience with restraining orders to students, and after meeting me and doing some preliminary investigations, agreed to take on my case. She talked to everyone involved, including Nick, Aiden and Angie through her lawyer. Nick and Aiden told her about my non-involvement. My advisor and a few of my professors also helped out. Once the whole story came out, Angie applied to withdraw the TRO filed against me. All of this was done by last week, thank God. My life has been fairly up in the air since this whole cluster F. It has cost me a lot of money, lawyer fees, and moving into a new place is fairly expensive. I had to borrow some of this money from my parents, who've been losing their mind from halfway around the world. Also, when the TRO was filed, the university had to inform my scholarship grantors and they started a review of my scholarship. My lawyer has updated them of the details, including statements from Angie and my advisor, but the review is a long process and will take its own time, so I'm still a little worried. Also, I won't be taking the follow-up undergrad course I was planning on. There are multiple reasons for that, but this issue has contributed a little bit. I admit I was a little annoyed with Angie, though I fully understood the reasons. Thankfully, she had the good grace of apologizing to me publicly on her Facebook and the class bulletin board. I am very thankful to her for that, since I was a little worried about the social repercussions. As for Nick and Aiden, they will be having a hard time. Both have been expelled from the university. Nick is also charged with grand theft. The dumbass stole all her electronics and some really expensive sneakers. Fortunately, they are both out of my lives. I would like to thank you guys for the personalized advice. Your explanations and advice certainly helped me in calming down and stopped me from losing my mind. And the last one is a little bonus story from our own subreddit r/ripe stories, and it has nothing to do with legal advice, but it is a nice little extra. It is titled, "Neighbor does not want to stop using my Wi-Fi, I push her out of the nest." Last year, my neighbor wanted to change her internet provider. She was on a contract and it was about to run out. She wanted to know who my internet provider was and how I found the service. I like my service provider very much and gave her their information so she could look at their plans. When her contract ran out, she came over and asked me if she could use my Wi-Fi for a few days while waiting for the new internet provider to hook her up. I agreed. She knew less about computers and internet than I do, so I went over to her place and set up her Wi-Fi to connect to mine. I put in the password and set the computer to connect automatically. A week went by and I asked her if the new service had been hooked up. She said no, she had decided to wait a little longer. She would not explain why though. I told her that she needed to get her own internet because mine was very slow and I had security cameras running off it. With her also using my service, they were not working properly. She begged for 3 more days. I agreed to 3 more days. 3 days later it was clear that she was still leeching off my internet. I went over again and asked her why she was still on my Wi-Fi. She said she did not have the money to get hooked up with the new service provider and asked if she could continue to use my Wi-Fi until next month. I explained that that was not okay and that I need my security cameras to work properly. So she said she would hook her computer up to her son's cell phone. I have no idea how she would do that, but she sounded convincing, so I said, sounds great. A week later she was still slowing down my signal. I texted her and asked her if she could please remove my Wi-Fi from her computer. She responded that she couldn't right now, she was sick. I knew she really was sick at this time from her Facebook profile and I felt bad for her. So I called my internet provider and discussed various GB plans. The plan I had was for a pretty slow download speed, but it was a legacy plan and I had kept it because it was cheap, had no bandwidth cap and because it had been enough when it was just me using it. However, I was going to be adding a camera to the security system and thought that it might be worth my while to go up in speed a little bit. I asked the internet provider to put me on a slightly more expensive plan that doubled my speed. However, after a few days it was clear that it still could not handle her leeching my signal. So I did what I should have done at the end of the time period that she said she would need it for. I changed my Wi-Fi password, I went into my modem and Wi-Fi settings and blocked her computer. She never complained about me cutting her off, but a week later she did mention that she was now hooked up with the same internet provider that I use. Looks like all she needed was to be pushed out of the nest and suddenly she discovered she could fly. And guys, unfortunately we have already reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories, and if you haven't already, please also go to patreon.com/ripeyoutube, where I upload exclusive Reddit videos starting at just $3 a month. This is a great way to support me in case you are interested, and the chance for me to become independent from YouTube revenue. Thank you so much for watching, please don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.